Like it or not, the SEC is going to the national championship in 2025. Welcome on into the Overtime Drive. He's Dave Shumate. I'm Cole Thompson, and we have a jam-packed show for you. But real quickly, the SEC guaranteed to make it to the national championship because Auburn plays against Florida. So one of them has to go and represent, which means Dave is one step closer of being right that the SEC will win a national title before the SEC in college football. Real quickly, make sure you like the video, hit the ring notification, of course. Subscribe to the channel because we talk college football every single day. Download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Follow us on the socials. Link is in the description. Follow Dave at Dave Shumate SEC, me at Mr. Cole Thompson, and check out all of our great work found at secunfiltered.com. And as always, this episode is brought to you by our friends over at FANDUEL. Go visit FANDUEL.com right now and get started with $200 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. So lay down $5 on Auburn, on Florida, whoever you want to win, and then you'll have $200 to play with in the national championship when an SEC school cuts down the nets. Just go visit FANDUEL.com/SECU. Join in the madness today. Schuster, what's going on, brother?
Hey, another week, baby. We feel like, again, a great time of year, spring. We got light. The sun is out longer. We got a Final Four this week in your home state. Yeah, spring football. We're approaching. I mean, we are at the halfway point of the college baseball season, not to the SEC season, but we're almost serious. We got a lot of good things, a lot of things everybody can go outside, be happy about. I'm fired up to talk some receivers with you, Bear.
Wide receiver is the subject of conversation today. We're going around all 16 schools, breaking down some of our favorite breakout players, guys that we want to see take that next step forward. Some names that you may just need to monitor simply because of if you don't, well, who's to say that they won't end up becoming household figures by the time that November rolls around. But as we always do, we begin the show with Around the SEC. Dave Shumate, what do you got on the docket tonight?
We mentioned it, Bear. Final Four in San Antonio, which I think is a great Final Four site. Does a good job hosting that. Everything's real close in proximity down there. But first game, the only game in the SEC, or representing SEC teams, 6:09 p.m. Eastern, Florida, Auburn. Florida, currently the 2.5-point favorite. These teams met back in February. Florida got the double-digit win, really dominated most of that game outside the first 4 minutes. Without Elijah Martin in Neville Arena, gave Auburn one of their two home losses, Florida and Alabama this year. Todd Golden, former Bruce Pearl disciple. I think these were definitely the two best teams in the SEC as we finished the year. I think we can all safely say that. Now, and I'll be honest with you, I think we got the four best teams in the Final Four from start to finish, too. I think just even outside the Florida-Auburn.
I heard something said today that this is going to be the best Final Four that we have had in probably a decade because of the four teams that are currently represented down in San Antonio.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, people get upset about not having the upsets, and I feel like it's kind of – we get excited for like a day or two, but then like if a 12 or 11 seed reaches the Sweet 16, Elite 8, and they get blown out, it's not as fun. We had some good Elite 8 matchups. I'm with you. I think this Final Four, I mean, it's kind of – you got two older guys that are still waiting to get that national title in Kelvin Sampson and Bruce Pearl, and you got two young cats. I mean, John Shire's only 37 years old, which is wild.
That's still so weird to me that they went from Coach K to like a 34-year-old. Like, I will never understand. Like, how
37, yeah. I was listening to a Coach K podcast today, and he was actually talking about Shire. He's like, little do people know, the last 2 years he ran a lot of my meetings. I just sit in the back and chime in because he was, to give K credit, he was like, I needed with the new generation a change of voice because they would get tired of the same voice. So I thought it started him doing that. And then, dude, I mean, what can you not say? I mean, your neck of the woods, Bear. I mean, always love, respect the Houston program, what Kelvin Sampson and them done. It's built kind of the right way now. They've got a lot of guys like Jawan Roberts, LJ Carr, them stay there for a while. So, like, they've played SEC teams every year, so very familiar with them.
People got pissed off.
If an SEC team doesn't win it, Bear, I'll say this. I want Houston to win it. I want Kelvin Sampson to go get him one.
Were you shocked at that line when it initially dropped at -5.5 in favor of Duke?
Dude, I think it's just how
I thought that was disrespectful.
Duke and them, but no, I'm with you. It's very high. I agree with you, and I lean towards taking Houston in that one. But I mean, as we both mentioned, I mean, both these guys. I'll say it this way: this is the first time in a while you could make a legitimate case for all four teams to win the national title, and I don't think anyone would argue with you. I mean, they may disagree and go someone else, but I think your argument would be fair.
Like, here's the thing that always bothers me. Like, yes, it's really fun to watch that 5 versus 12 upset. It's very fun to see a 13 seed go past that number 4 roster, and then they go play against a 17. It's like, okay, we're cool with all that. But then, like, when we get to the Sweet 16, and especially when we get to the Final Four, I love when Loyola Chicago was able to kind of go on their run with, of course, Sister Jean, and then George Mason in 2006 really was my first Cinderella that I remember. But then you also remember those games afterwards, like really outside of the Butler matchup that went to back-to-back national championships with Brad Stevens as its head coach. You watch dominating teams just find a way to dismantle that Cinderella story in the Final Four when really you want the best matchups possible. I think that we're getting that. And that's something that whether or not you like the current status of NIL, this may be the new norm where, yeah, you are going to get a few less Cinderella stories. And a number 10 seed being, of course, Arkansas, headlined by a 3-time Naismith Coach of the Year and John Calipari, is the dark horse to win it all. But like, I can appreciate in terms of, hey, they were the best teams and they were in this seeding for an exact reason. Like, sure, I'll still take Drake getting the upset over Mizzou, which again feels really weird me saying it, but still, whatever. I will take a High Point getting an upset win over a Clemson. Over a Clemson squad. Like, I'll take that 10 times out of 10. I'll take McNeese beat Clemson. Like, I'll take that. But when we get down to the nitty gritty nuts and bolts of all things, I want the 4 best teams representing themselves down in the big time show. That's what we're getting this year. I think that's a win in itself.
Also staying in basketball, portal season for them, a lot of rosters being built, really started last week, which for whatever reason, me and Chris were talking about that on what show, our Final Four preview. No clue why the transfer portal and I get football. They have a spring semester they got to deal with.
It's dumb.
Basketball makes no sense. You wait 2 more weeks, you're not running in any semester. But this started last week. Teams on the Sweet 16, Stephen Pearl, guys like Preston Murphy, the assistants at Bama, Auburn, all been hitting the horns. You'll see Big Z from Arkansas just re-entered the portal. So you'll see a bunch of your favorite teams losing players by their own choice and by being forced out, and then bringing in some other guys as well. Trey Young staying in basketball, new assistant GM, donating $1 million. That'll get him like 1 player in Oklahoma. But I don't know. It's interesting to me. He's still going to play for the Hawks.
Yeah, is that weird to you? Is that weird to you that a dude that still is currently trying to win an MVP and lead his team to an NBA Finals is also serving as a GM at a school? Like, especially because here's the other thing. It's like an assistant GM, but it's an assistant GM. Is it for basketball only or for the entire
basketball
program?
Only? But it's like he said he's going to be dealing with contracts and stuff. I'm like, you're not even going to be in town.
What are you doing, bro? Who are you watching? Like,
yeah, I think they hired someone as their GM and had like a scouting background in the NBA. I'm sure he'll be taking a lot of those big trades. If you can just keep sending over the $1 million once a year.
Okay, let's just be real. He's getting a title to pay $1 million for a kid to come there. That's what he's really doing. They're giving him a title at his school so he can go ahead and give the money. That's it.
What a versatile guy, though. He's like Jackie Moon, man, just not for his own team. He's the GM and then he's a player for the Atlanta Hawks.
That's still one of my favorite.
You added this one, Bear. We added this one, Nate Oats. I mean, I'm not going to say term down. I don't think he even thought about it. But Jeff Goodman's, who's a respected basketball writer, media guy, reports Nate Oats not interested in Maryland after Kevin Willard.
And water is wet.
I say this on a lot of shows. Nate Oats, I don't think is leaving for any college job. If anything, I think it's when his daughters graduate from Alabama. I mean, I'll be willing to say in the next 5 to 7 years, I think he will take an NBA job at some point if the sport stays like this. Because I heard Coach K today. I was telling you, I was listening to his podcast, and he was saying if he was still in college, which I mean, this is a 78-year-old man. I don't think he is, but like he would go to the NBA because he's saying it's the same exact game. You're dealing with more stuff in college now that he would not have to deal with in the NBA. He can just coach. So it's funny he would say that. I think Nate Oats gets that itch at some point too. And then finally, just a little, let me bring up the screen here for us, Bear. A little SEC baseball standings. I know our guy Chris Phillips and Harrison Fant will get us rolling on that. They do a phenomenal job. I think we have the best baseball coverage out of anybody who covers the SEC. Let me share the screen real fast, Bear, dude. Share screen. Sorry, folks, pulling it up right now. Here we go. SEC baseball standings as we head into weekend 4. Arkansas, Georgia, Tennessee, Texas, all sitting atop at 8-1 in league play. LSU sitting at 7-2 after a sweep against the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Alabama, Ole Miss sitting at 6-3. Some surprises. I think trying to fight for a host race in this still early in the season though. Oklahoma sitting at 5-4. Auburn, Kentucky, Vandy 4-5. Then you kind of got you have the cellar dwellers.
No, you have the cellar.
Florida 1-8. Mississippi State, they lost a lot in Pitt. I'm not too surprised by this. 1-8. South Carolina 1-8. And then we got Texas A&M, the other big surprise up there with Florida sitting at 1-8. And then Missouri is just a bad baseball team this year, folks. They're 0-9. So, again, another great year for the SEC. We were chatting in our SEC crew. I would say there's probably about 8 host teams right now. 12 to 13 teams make it. You said earlier, water's wet. Every day ends with Y. Pretty stereotypical. But we really got those 5 teams, I think, really – or 4, I think 5. Keep LSU in that. Arkansas, Georgia, Tennessee, Texas, and LSU either tied or 1 game apiece. And I think Alabama, Ole Miss being your 2 big surprises in the league this year, Bear. But no, just another SEC baseball season. A&M, Florida is kind of your cellar dwellers that you're very surprised about.
Who's the one that you think has a better opportunity of turning it around before it's too late? I mean, like it literally is at that point where it's almost too late for both. But if there was one that you lean more on, which one?
I think Florida, once they get a little healthier, and then Kevin Sullivan can just go look at Nate last year and make, look, guys, we're the last team in the tournament. We made it to them all. We're fine. Let's just get to May and see where the chips fall there. They've had bad injury the last 2 years. I would go Florida. A&M, again, obviously Kristen Harrison had fallen more in depth with me covering basketball that I've been able to lock into now.
It's bad, dude. It's very bad. It's inconsistency when it comes to pitching. Hitters are swinging at junk. I know that you're a down Grahovic, and that's a big-time blow, but still. I mean, like you still have Lavalette. Lavalette broke the school record for the most home runs by a player in program history, and he can't even celebrate because if he's watching as his team in his final year is just going away and down the gutter. It's a shitter. It's problems. It's major problems that is not going to be corrected. I think, again, I want to give Michael
Knoxville this week.
I want to give Michael Early credit. I want to give him, a lot of belief that, hey, the right thing to do was always to bring him in. That way you could keep the continuity with the roster. But this is the same roster outside of a few different players that are no longer here that last year was an out away from winning its first national title in baseball in how long is the question. And now they don't even know if they'll make it to the tournament, let alone hosting a tournament game.
No, I agree, man. This is one of the
ones where coaching
one of the biggest disappointments in our big 3 sports history in a while. And like you said, you factor in again, like you mentioned, there's some injuries to Grahovic. But for the most part,
dude,
you're right. You're right. Does one dude at third base just injure? Not end it. I mean, dude, just like it didn't even get off the ground.
What was it? It was 4 games in. They're like, yep, he's done.
Yeah.
So it's like
shoulder.
It was a shoulder injury. Yeah. And he's undergoing surgery. And here's the worst part, especially because if you don't know what the rest of the roster is going to look like moving forward and what the future of this organization is, has he played his last game at Bluebell? Because of, again, if they say, hey, I'm only playing for Michael Early, we're firing Early because of look at how bad of a season we had.
You think they would make that move, Bear, first year?
Is it worth it? I mean, like A&M is one of the prideful institutions in college baseball, and they always have been. And the way that they care about baseball out there, especially with Section 203, how passionate the crew is, and honestly, it feels like that right now is one of those teams in the lone sport where they can actually, I think, have an opportunity of winning something pretty quickly. Wouldn't you want to do that before it gets off the rails? Because think about it. If the rumors are true about Buzz Williams looking at going to College Park, you're getting started over in basketball. You don't know what you get in football. Football, you may be an 8-4 team. You may end up being a 10-2 team. You may end up being a 6-6 team. We don't know. But baseball, you were an out away before Jim Schlossnagle pulled the wool over your eyes, even though it was very clear that he was leaving win or lose in that matchup to go to Texas. And now you're back at square one where it's really, really bad. I mean, you have to at least consider it. Like, Michael Early was a guy that wasn't considered for any other head coaching job in all of college baseball. He was a hitting coach that was going to Austin, very excited about that. And then A&M said, we have to keep our core together. And the only way we're going to do that is by hiring this guy. So it was a right move, but it also may be the wrong move because some people are meant to be coaches. Some people are meant to be managers. Michael Early right now looks like a coach, not a manager.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It'll be interesting. They got a big game, the series this weekend. Again, I don't see them getting one against Tennessee this week. So things only seem to get worse there.
Sandman is 100% right. Kind of like Rodney Terry didn't turn out well. Rodney Terry got the job because he took his team to the Elite Eight. And they were like, nope, we cannot take away what this guy did. And lo and behold, 2.5 years later, he's out of a job. Sean Miller, welcome down to the 40 acres. That's Michael Early. It truly is Michael Early because of you made a hire based off of a guy that you hoped was going to transpire into a really good coach and a really good manager because you had the right players. And yeah, you have the right players, but it's abundantly clear that whether or not we agree that the way that Jim Schlossnagle handled it, Schloss leaving was one of the biggest X factors on why this team is completely cratered on in itself.
Yeah, and you kind of, I'm not going to say like the inmates run the asylum. It's not that part, but this is what happens when you let players pick coaches. It's what our man Sandman said. It's an emotional decision naturally. So, you're right. I mean, Rodney Terry's a good example. I mean, they both got to where they got for different reasons, but like an interim type guy that everybody's kind of like, we hope he's the guy.
Like Frank Reich is getting the head coaching job.
Rodney Terry, though, Rodney's like, hell, I at least made the postseason all 3 years I was in my school.
Yeah, and I mean, he can at least say, hey, I at least won a game one time. Like, I at least made it and won a game. I'm cool with that. I mean, it could have been worse. There are some very terrible wide receiver rooms in the SEC. There's a lot of good ones too, and we're going to go through every single one. So really quickly, if you're watching, make sure you like the video, hit the ring notification, and of course, subscribe to the channel. That way you don't miss out on any of the content that we got coming to you. Wide receivers today. Then we got the mailbag on Thursday. We'll pick a new position to talk about next Monday. But let's start off in the Yellowhammer State, Alabama. We already know the main guy. It's Ryan Williams. Hopefully a sophomore surge after a freshman freak season. They also bring back Jeremy Bernard. They really like Jeremy Bernard, and Jeremy Bernard going into this year will be his third season working with Kalen DeBoer and his second season working with Ryan Grubb. They also brought in Isaiah Horton, the wide receiver from Miami, and they got some younger guys that are on their way up. Dave, when you look at this wide receiver room, what really stands out?
I think there's some consistent play on the front line of it. Again, we know what we got with Ryan Williams. I think Jeremy Bernard was the most consistent guy last year from top to bottom. He didn't have the
he was.
He was the most day-to-day guy I could count on. You mentioned Horton coming over from Miami. I think he gives them a solid 3. After that, you're waiting on that depth a little bit. Cole Adams coming back from injury. Could he help them some? And then Jalen Hell, you're waiting for somebody. And then Jalen Mbakwe, does he get any run? I remember we all know him coming over from the secondary, playing both ways. I like the front line. Just a little concerned about depth, and it's more. I expect someone to step up that we're not talking about here to create that depth. That's just my only concern as we stand right now. I like your first 3 guys. We'd like to see a little bit of depth developed. I think that will happen though, so not overly concerned.
Ryan Williams having a breakout year is going to be really interesting because of what do you define as a breakout year? I thought last year kind of setting the tone with the inconsistency at quarterback was really beneficial. I agree with you though. Jeremy Bernard was such an under the radar type of player because the numbers don't back it up, but he was so consistent at the role that he played. And it felt like there were so many opportunities for Jalen Milroe to connect with number 5. And I was just like, you know what? I'm good. I'm going to scramble. And by the time that he finally found number 5 down the field, it's like, oh, well, now he's covered and I got to go tuck and run it and just keep it myself. That's the way my brain looked at whenever I saw, Jeremy Bernard downfield. Does that change now with a more Kalen DeBoer-esque Ryan Grubb type quarterback? Austin Mack, Ty Simpson, Keelan Russell, are they able to build that type of chemistry to where, we're seeing him be a consistent playmaker, but we're also seeing that continuity when it comes to the passing attack whenever you get Jeremy Bernard open? Because I really thought he was going to be a breakout player. Thought he flew under the radar in the transfer portal. Very clear that he was always going to go follow suit wherever Kalen DeBoer went. And I do think that there is a lot left in the tank that was just so much unknown last year when it came to his overall potential. I really do think that he is going to be a breakout player. I like Isaiah Horton. I think he fits that role of that X receiver that's going to be missing this upcoming season.
Yeah, that is whether or him or Jalen Hell. They need one of them to step up. I don't know. I think they're 3rd or 4th right now in that group.
Something like that. Arkansas. I have no idea what to make of this wide receiver room. This is ugly. This one, there's been
zero size. They got a bunch of number 2 or 3 wide receivers. It doesn't mean you're bad. It's just
no.
There's no Andrew Armstrong on here. I feel like anybody that ever listens to our stuff always bring him back. But I feel like he's one of the more underrated players on a very average team last year. But you go, Omega Blake, and that's kind of your best guys right there. I mean, again, no people they like their wide receivers. They're not in love with them, and they're concerned about having a big playability. Again, I think they've been torching Arkansas secondary in the spring, which isn't good if you're an Arkansas.
That's not a good thing, though.
I think when they go play better competition, I think these Arkansas people are a little bit like the people inside the building are a little bit like, we've been around this league. We know there's better corners. So I don't know if our guys are going to be able to get off the line of scrimmage when people press us. So
here's my thing when it comes to Arkansas. I think that they really have some good breakout candidates. They don't have that X factor player. They don't have that dude that like invokes fear in me. Like when I look at Auburn, I see 4 wide receivers that I think all could be such impactful players. And you take one of them and just drop them into Fayetteville, Arkansas right now. He is the best player at the position. No questions asked. Because I like Courtney Crutchfield. I think he's going to have a really good, solid season this upcoming fall. I think Omega Blake, his skill set is exactly what you want to see alongside with Taylon Green. I think that is a perfect blend for a wide receiver too. But I also look at his route tree and I'm saying the dude does 2 things really well. Gets vertical, doesn't drop balls. He's not going to win in the intermediate part of the field. He's going to win as a burner, and he's going to win with yards after contact because guess what? That's what he did when he was at Charlotte last year, and he averaged like 21.8 yards a play. He is a one-type trick pony wide receiver, and that's totally fine, but that's what I'm looking for in a secondary option. And it just feels like that with this offseason, how instrumental and how I would say probably impactful it is for the future of Arkansas football, not just with Sam Pittman, but for the long term, you got to have an enforcer. And do you have the money and the resources right now that you're going to throw out and say, we're going to spend like no one's business in the transfer portal this spring to hopefully get them caught up to speed in the summer, hopefully get them caught up to speed in fall camp. And then when we have one of our early games in the year against against an LSU or an Ole Miss or whoever we got to play, he's going to be ready, locked and loaded, and already built that rapport with Taylon Green to where they're speaking the same language and they're scoring 6 points like no one's business. Is that going to happen?
I don't think so. Again, I'm on the low end of the totem pole in this group. It's unfortunate because they got a gunslinger. Again, maybe they go do something in the spring portal, but there's not a bunch of big X wide receivers sitting out there in the portal waiting to be taken care of. But again, the positive, they do have Taylon Green and Bobby Petrino to sell.
But here's the other thing. Any bit of money that Arkansas would spend on a wide receiver, another school can match that. And guess what? They're probably going to, because there are some schools out there, ACC.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Kentucky outbid them. They were down. It was Kentucky and Arkansas for Kendrick Law, and Kentucky gave him an extra $100,000.
It's like, yeah.
And you know, more money on kid football players right now than Arkansas.
And you know what the sad thing is? I still think Arkansas
fans listening right now is like, I'm done.
Here's the thing, though. I still think Arkansas is in a much better position than Kentucky going into this year. Like, even though Kentucky landed Kendrick Law, I'm like, that's cool. I still think that Arkansas is bowl eligible, and I'm not sure about Kentucky. A team that is going to be bowl eligible, or at least should, and I'm kind of tired of saying should when we know that they will be, or the fact that should never be the case, Auburn. Auburn's wide receiver room, it was good. And then you went out the portal and you said, hey, let's really go ahead and shove one up the keister of everyone else in the SEC and get the best player available. And that's Eric Singleton. And all the reports coming out right now is that he has blended in with this offense extremely well. Cam Coleman has looked phenomenal from the offseason. He's gained a little bit of weight. The other thing that really stands out about him, social media is a blessing and a curse. I am cursed to believe that Jackson Arnold is turning the corner, because if you watch that throw, who's at the back end of the corner? It's Cam Coleman in single man coverage, diving for a ball in the back of the end zone for an easy 6 points. That is something that I should expect to see. And I really think that this is the year. I say this every single year and I'm always disappointed. This is the year, Dave, where somebody finally hits the 1,000 yard marker at the wide receiver position. It'll be the first since 1999. But I do believe that when you have Perry Thompson, when you have Miles Simmons, when you have Eric Singleton, you have Cam Coleman, one of them has to do it, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's wild to say I would say going right now, Auburn has the best wide receiver group heading into the 2025.
It's like not even remotely close either.
Yeah, again, I mean, we're talking about it because I think a lot of teams have question marks, at least for depth in that perspective. But yeah, it's Auburn, and it's wild because we're used to talk about Auburn running backs, linebackers traditionally. This is not a wide receiver school. I mean, I couldn't even tell you who the best NFL player ever to come from Auburn and played at wide receiver. I mean, maybe Sammy Coates or Ben Obamanu, which, I mean, that's not saying anything.
That's saying nothing.
They got a couple more catches than I do in the league. And, I mean, this is the best depth they've had by far since probably 14 when they had Sammy Coates and Duke Williams. And that's just two.
I think it's even better.
I think from top to bottom it is better. And Auburn's due to have a really good receiver room. You're right. I'm not really worried about them. It's just who's going to getting them the football. I think Jackson Arnold will have a better year. You're right. Auburn should be one of the more improved teams in the country just off overall wins alone.
Who would you pick as your breakout player in that room? Because it's easy to say Eric Singleton is having a year, but like, do you
talking to somebody from Auburn today? Got it. Horatio Fields, the kid from Wake Forest, they love an under the radar guy. Yeah, big body, 6'3", 205 kid. They liked his film. He's had a good spring. I think that's a kid. Again, I think everybody always gets fired up about somebody. Even back when I worked at it in the spring, there's always somebody, man, that kid plays well in the spring, and then just for whatever reason in the fall, it just doesn't translate. But this kid right now, I think he's playing really well for him, kind of an under-the-radar name that we're not hearing compared to the other guys we know about.
I think Perry Thompson, Bryce Kane, or Malcolm Simmons transfers before the end of the camp.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me if he's like Perry Thompson, honestly.
If you're Arkansas, that's a dude that you're like, hey, don't go to Ole Miss. You come to us. Come here now because we need to pay for you. Because honestly, like that was a dude I was very excited to see, and he never really made that impact last year. And then you look at the wide receivers that are waiting in the wings, how many freshmen they have, from Eric Smith to Sam Turner to Duke Smith. Like he is going to get buried down that depth chart. He could start, I think, for several SEC schools. Like Vanderbilt, if they were to go after him, dude, that's wide receiver 1 walking in the building, and he's barely played in college football. Like, that's how good I think he can be. Florida has a bunch of freshmen that are already really making an impact. I was texting with one of my buddies on staff today, and he mentioned Dallas Wilson, the kid that was the last-second flip, goes to Eugene, Oregon, says, you know what, peace out, I'm going to Gainesville, stays in the state of Florida, 6'3", 215 pounds, dude's a weapon. They are all in on what Dallas Wilson can be this year. And I know it's crazy because if you talk about what's not there and on display, because if you don't have DJ Lagway, but they really, really like what he provides. They think that Vernell Brown's going to come along strong. Our friend J. Michael Sturdivant, you and I talked about him in the offseason when he committed to Florida as potentially that big dark horse breakout guy in the SEC. They think that he is a perfect fit for what Billy Napier's system is all about. There's a lot to like about Florida's offensive personnel this year, which again, it doesn't change the fact that they have question marks on the defense. It doesn't change the fact that they have question marks when it comes to the scheduling. But I do think that when you look at last year's wide receiver room for Florida, it was okay. I look at this year's wide receiver room. I'm very excited to believe that things are going to turn tides, and we're going to have Florida at one point really in the nuts and bolts of this college football playoff conversation if they all hit.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think this team needs a true vertical threat, not just from like a explosive vertical threat that they can get around the edge on a jet sweep, like someone who can go win one-on-one matchups that scheme does nothing about. J. Michael Sturdivant, I think, needs to be good for them. I maybe eat my words for that later, but I think he needs to be really good for Florida, for DJ Lagway, for them to ultimately take this next take it to the next level offensively here. The right side of the offensive line's got a little bit better there, but other than that, Bear, you hit on a lot of it. I agree. I think they got a lot of good pieces, just not that complete receiver. They don't need that complete receiver. I just think they need that big body vertical threat, 6'3", 6'4" guys. Jermichael Sturdivant checks those boxes. He needs to be those guys that can go win in the one-on-one matchups that you see a lot of the great teams have on the outside.
I think the other thing that's really important is that you will get another year of Aiden Mizell, who can be that Z vertical receiver. And there was a lot of moments last year that I thought he was vastly underutilized, and I think he won't be this year. I think they're getting a healthy Trey Wilson out there. I mean, Trey Wilson has an opportunity to be the best weapon in the SEC this fall because of just his speed, his change of direction, his footwork. It's all through the roof. Like, he's really good at the little detailed things that you want in a wide receiver. And then, of course, you got the young guys. Vernell Brown, we already kind of talked about. We also talked about Washington that's coming on in. They really like their tight end room. They also like what they have in the running back room with Webb, and then of course you have Jaden Baugh. But I'm telling you, if you were to tell me today that I get to pick one wide receiver that I think is going to be better than advertised, like still in that same range of what we saw with Cam Coleman and Ryan Williams last year, but the guy that was kind of the third receiver but was better than the first receiver, I think Dallas Wilson can be that dude. I think that there's a reason why, and it's not just money, that he decided to go to Florida and not go to Eugene, Oregon. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah.
Georgia couldn't get any worse than it was last year. I mean, led the country in drops. You let go of literally half the team, and you got a new quarterback in there. the feeling is that they really liked what they landed in the recruiting class, but they also really landed 2 players that I think could be impactful in the SEC. One's been doing it for a while at Texas A&M, Noah Thomas, 6'6" wide receiver coming on in from College Station, big bodied, doesn't drop that many balls, had that one big time play in the Las Vegas Bowl that ended up costing Texas A&M a touchdown. But besides that, had inconsistent quarterback play when he was in College Station. He's going to be working with Gunnar Stockton. He's going to have an opportunity to be that X weapon. And then Zachariah Branch. I think that so many people are looking at the way he was utilized with Lincoln Riley. And I think that when you take out the fact that he is a gadget player, but there is so much more to like about his route running. There's so much more to like about how he's been paying attention. You talk to any person that is close to the program, they're saying that he's already caught up to speed on almost everything when it comes to the wide receiver role. That's a massive win for Georgia, because if you got to be able to get a really true quality number 1 playmaker, and you also really got to like what you see in the terms of the personnel around him, you also get Colby Young back. And Colby Young, coming off of now the lawsuit, no longer having to worry about that. His focus is on football. That's a very sneaky, maybe breakout wide receiver room. Not one that you're going to put a lot of stock into or invest a lot of time into, but one that when you look at, you go, okay, I see the vision. I can absolutely see the vision that we're going into this year for Mike Bobo.
Yeah, I'm probably a little wait till I see it a little more than what it sounds like you're saying, Bear. I mean, I think their scrimmage the other day was not even great from a wide receiver standpoint.
Sure.
They have a lot of drops. I'm going to wait and see with this group. Again, Zachariah Branch is kind of the guy you're hoping fills it out and gets that relationship with Gunnar Stockton. Outside of that, though, I mean, I was waiting for London Humphreys to do a little bit more as a role guy last year. Just didn't see it. Again, they're due to have a big year at the wide receiver spot. I'm just going to be cautious until I see it this year. This is one of the youngest teams Kirby will inherit. You factor in they lost a lot on the offensive line, new starter at quarterback. Would be kind of a random year for the wide receiver group. They finally did it. It's like with all these big question marks surrounding them that need to help them. I don't know. I'm waiting for it to happen a little bit. Again, they've had bigger receivers, obviously, than Auburn now. But like for the past few years, I've been waiting for Georgia's receiver room to take that next step. I just don't think it's going to be in kind of a stopgap transition year offensively this year. I think it can be better, but it'll be interesting. I think guys like London Humphreys are going to have to get better. I think Zachariah Branch, I trust him the most out of that group right now. And Dylan Bell's got to be the returnee guy.
I would say Dylan Bell, we're not talking, I think, enough about.
For James Coley in that group. But no, I'm gonna hold my card here on Georgia's wide receiver group.
If I were to ask you if you think that one of them can go for over 1,000 yards, would your prediction be Zachariah Branch?
Yeah, for sure. He's really the only guy I see it's a true that could probably really do that too, because I think he'll get a bunch of the touches on the toss sweep stuff that counts as a pass. I think
there's a part of me that wants to say it's gonna be Noah Thomas. I don't think
any of them do, because I don't know if they're going to get protected long enough. Again, that's what's concerning. It's not just them. You're breaking in a new quarterback. You're losing a lot on the offensive line. That's kind of
right now. Right now the entire left side of the offensive line is a giant question mark going into the year, and everyone is focusing in on what is that going to look like.
So they may be a little improved there. We just may not know, because again, Gunnar Stockton gets hit from behind when somebody is coming open. So.
It's going to be interesting to say the least. What's not going to be interesting is Kentucky football. I have no idea that they're going to be anything other than just probably fighting with Mississippi State for the cellar in the SEC. But they did bring in some wide receivers. We already mentioned Kendrick Law. They also brought in Troy Stellato coming on in from Clemson. True Edwards comes on in from Louisiana Tech. He was on the same staff with Trey Harris a few years ago. They also landed J.J. Hester coming on in from Oklahoma. And they also landed who was the other guy they landed? Jamori Macklin's back for another year, and then of course Kendrick Law.
Yeah, they got Fred Ferrier back, who was supposed to do some stuff from UAB last year. You're right. Like, I'm more worried about the quarterback room than I am the receiver room here. But again, they kind of go hand in hand. I mean, not terrible. I mean, you lost Barry Brown. He went to LSU. I mean, Dane Key's gone. I don't know. Troy Stellato, God, that guy's been around forever. I mean, he's been like a big time prospect. Yeah, you're right with the Cardinals.
He's been sitting at Clemson for this is his year. Like, this is how many times
it just never happened. Yeah. No,
That's
I'm with you, Bear. I don't know. I feel like I'd be just totally guessing here, which is kind of what we're doing. Again, I feel like I just look at this depth chart and I'm more like, who wins the quarterback spot before I even get to these guys? But specifically locked in on them, and I'm okay with it. I mean, if my biggest question mark for the Cats going into next year is that, we got bigger problems.
I will say I am excited to see
One second. Hold on. You talk 1 sec. 1 sec.
I think that there was definitely the one player that I'm very excited to see this year is True Edwards. 6'3", good overall catch radius. Last season with the Bulldogs, finished with 85 catches, 989 yards, 6 touchdowns, 11.6 yards a play. He's got an extra year of eligibility. That's a massive win, in my opinion, for what I think Kentucky wants to run. Dave's 100% right, though, when it comes to the actual college quarterback conundrum, because Cutter Boley is supposed to be your guy. I'm not sure that Cutter Boley actually is the right guy, but I also can tell you, watching with my own 2 eyes, seeing what the projection is of a guy like Zach Calzada, there are very few limitations about his game that I am actually buying into. In fact, I'm not even sold a little bit on what Zach Calzada can be, because he throws one speed. 5-yard slant route, it's coming in at 95 miles an hour. 55-yard down the field, it's coming in at 95 miles an hour. So best of luck to whoever's catching that football, because your fingers are going to be broken. Dave, I'm going to go ahead and get us paid real fast, and I want to help these people get paid. So what you need to do is go visit FANDUEL.com, because this bracket season, FANDUEL is letting you make the call. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. Lay down $5 this upcoming weekend on whichever game you want, and if you win, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. That's $200 in bonus bets on bets from everything, including clutch shots to last-second heartbreaks, and even figuring out which of the final 4 teams is cutting down the nets. If you've been waiting to join, there is no better time than right now. There's tournament action winding down, but still you can catch it from the women's side to the men's side. Whatever you want, FanDuel is giving you amazing bets like spreads, totals, game props, and so much more. Visit FanDuel.com/SECU and join on the college hoops action all tournament long, including Saturday and, of course, Monday night. Disclaimer: must be 21 and present in select states or 18 and present in D.C. First online real wager money only. $5 first deposit is required. Bonus issued with non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. FanDuel is offering the sports wagering in Kansas under the agreement of Kansas Star Casino, LLC. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. LSU. This is the wide receiver room that I am most excited about going into this year, simply because of you have the perfect blend, in my opinion, Dave. You got returners and you got newcomers. The newcomers, I think, enhance the wide receiver room that we saw a season ago, where Garrett Nussmeier threw for over 4,000 yards. The veterans already have that relationship and that rapport with number 13 going into a prove-it year down in Baton Rouge. You have Aaron Anderson back. He was your breakout star last year. You also have Chris Hilton fully healthy for the first time, really in the last 2 years, where he is going to be able to, I think, be that vertical receiver. You also brought in Barian Brown. We talked about him. That is pure speed. You still have Xavier Thomas, who can be a gadget player. He can be effective on special teams. He can do a lot of the minute things that become a major impact. You also bring in Nick Anderson from Oklahoma. And I know he didn't play last year, but the things that you have seen of him when he has been on the field, it's size. It's not teachable. You either have it or you don't. And you have your veteran quarterback returning. This, to me, feels like that wide receiver room where they crossed off every single box on what they needed. You wanted speed, we got you speed. You wanted size, we got you size. You wanted a little bit of that blend, we got you blend. You want a great route runner, we got you a great route runner. You wanted somebody who's going to be effective inside the red zone, we got you somebody who's effective inside the red zone. This, to me, is the most diverse and also, I think, the most complete wide receiver room in the SEC. Maybe not the best, but the most complete in terms of they have one person who can do something that you really like.
Yeah, I would go them or Auburn going into the season. We'll have the top receiver room. I mean, you mentioned it all, bringing in Barian Brown from Kentucky, have guys like you mentioned, Aaron Anderson, Chris Hilton, Xavier Thomas, waiting for a real dude to come out of this. Again, LSU fans are used to seeing dudes at the wide receiver spot. I don't know if we have a dude in this group, necessarily, but you're right. It's guys, they got a good mix of some proven guys and some guys that haven't been able to get tapped into that position yet. So maybe Cortez Hankton can do that. So fired up for LSU's room. You're right. I think them or Auburn have probably the best overall room, I would say, heading in. Not probably. I would say those two.
Those are easily, for rooms, the top two. Maybe not the top wide receiver, but the rooms in general, I think that there's no question about where they rank right now. If you had to pick one of the newcomers that's going to be breaking out, who do you have? Because I think it's Barry.
I'll go Nick Anderson because they need that. They need that X guy. They need that big vertical threat. I think they're missing that. Chris Hilton can be that. Chris Hilton, even going back to his high school days, notorious for being banged up. I know Nick Anderson was a little bit last year. I would go Nick Anderson as not sleepy, but the guy to step up the most out of the newcomers.
See, I think Barry and Brown, and the reason is because you look back at that 4th and 6 play where it was the 56-yard blast downfield with Brock Vandegrift. To me, I thought I was going to see more of that at that point. I thought that maybe that wasn't the moment where Kentucky was going to prove that they were a sleeping giant, but I thought that you would at least see more consistency from Barry Brown. And it's just like, now we know that it was a quarterback issue. Partially, there was other things going on, like the inconsistencies of the offensive line. But I know that I'm getting one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback in the SEC, thrown to me this year. I think that does wonders for Barry and Brown and the way that we view him as a player moving forward. I truly believe that. Mississippi State, they're going to be a really interesting room. The clip that's recently gone viral, I think we have to talk about. It's Blake Shapen connecting on a 40-yard blast downfield to a speedy Anthony Evans from Georgia. I wonder what is his role going to be, because you did lose Mario Craver. You did lose Kevin Coleman. You have to wonder, is Kelly Akari going to be able to break on out? Do you have an up-and-coming freshman that you think is going to be that difference maker? Or can Anthony Evans and Brendan Thompson, one guy known for speed and one guy known for size, actually end up being difference makers and start filling year 2 for Jeff Lebby?
Yeah, Anthony Evans will probably have to be. I mean, interesting he left Georgia. It kind of showed, I don't know, to me that doesn't say I'm real jacked about Anthony Evans if he's able to walk out of that room and not play right now. Brendan Thompson, I think, been around since Vietnam. Aiden Williams is the kid I think is going to have to step up. Mississippi kid.
Ole Miss kid.
Did a really good job for Ole Miss early on in his career. And he was a guy, was like a spring practice warrior. That if you've ever worked in the sport, like I mentioned, there's a kid every year in the spring that just balls out, and it just doesn't happen. That's been him in his career so far. Still got plenty of time. I think Aiden Williams, the kid's going to have some pride, be a Mississippi kid. Maybe even take a little bit of that Isaac Smith role. Again, Isaac Smith, a great safety for them. Dad played at Mississippi State. Kind of have a little pride in being from the state of Mississippi and getting this program back.
Cam Thompson from Northern Illinois. Is he just a depth piece, or is he going to be maybe that breakout dude that we talk about at the end of spring?
I mean, they'll take as much help as they can get. I mean, dude, if that guy's a depth piece, I don't know. Mississippi State's a lot better than I'm thinking they're going to be.
By the way, I misspoke. Kelly Akari is no longer.
Yeah, I think Kelly Akari graduated.
He graduated already. Ole Miss, once again, is going to be losing a bunch of talent at wide receiver. Here's the problem. They're the portal kings, so they're going to be able to land whoever the hell they want. And they kind of did. Dejon Stribling comes on in from Oklahoma State. Traylon Way comes on in from West Virginia. Harrison Wallace was a late addition, but he was added on in from Penn State. Caleb Odom comes on in from Alabama. They also landed the 5-star wide receiver, Cade Cunningham, that was getting looked at by Auburn, getting looked at by Georgia, getting looked at by Alabama, and he sticks at home. So Lane Kiffin gets himself a homegrown talent. And then, of course, you also bring back Caden Lee, who was that wide receiver number 3 in most games last year. You remember the big-time play with what we saw in Austin Simmons at quarterback in the Georgia game. They had like the 24-yard connection. That might be a relationship that we're going to see continue to blossom and that become a new norm in Oxford for 2025.
Yeah, I like the Stribling take for sure. He's someone I'm fired up about. Like you mentioned, coming over from Oklahoma State. I think Caden Lee is going to have to take that next step this year. He's a returner, played well in some games, kind of that Jordan Watkins role after they lost Watkins. But after that, yeah, you're right. Wait for the West Virginia, like Caleb Odom from Alabama, maybe a true freshman. You're right, but they did lose. I mean, between Trey Harris, I know Juice Wells wasn't always healthy, but I think Jordan Watkins, one of the more underrated receivers, like Andrew Armstrong was for Arkansas. Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of production you're losing there. They're going to really need Deshaun Stribling or Harrison Wallace, one of those guys, to step up for him. But Stribling's got proven production, so I think he will translate well.
Do you wonder about when it comes to a guy like Harrison Wallace, because he's played in such big time matchups, like he's been to the Cotton Bowl. Not the Cotton Bowl. He's been to the Peach Bowl. He's played in the college football playoff semifinal. He was in the quarterfinal. He caught 2 big passes from Drew Aller. And are you just thinking that maybe it's the personnel, the offense that he was being ran in that kind of limited his success? Or is it him as a player? Because there's something about Lane Kiffin finding a dude that just wasn't a good fit for one school, and it becomes a perfect blend of consistency and chaos for his program.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Missouri is another team that's going to be replacing a lot of production. No more Theo Wees, no more Luther Burden. But they landed my favorite player in the SEC last year, and that was Kevin Coleman, coming on in from Mississippi State. Even with the inconsistencies of the offensive personnel in general, still finished with over 900 receiving yards. They also were able to go ahead and land a couple of young up-and-comers. They have Joshua Manning back for another year. They have Marquise Johnson back for another year. They also were able to go land Daniel Blood. They have Demarion Folks coming on in, Sean Terry coming on in, and Donovan, and I know I'm going to butcher his name, so just give me credit on this one. Donovan Olugbodi coming on in as well, the 4-star from Texas. I mean, it's a very who's who kind of wide receiver room. I don't know if that's a bad thing or not, though.
Yeah, a lot of production left. And I don't think they just replace in a year with Weiss and obviously Luther Burden leaving. It's almost like if you had asked Missouri fans or Eli Drinkwitz, would you rather just have the wider, if you would have traded for now what you know, only getting a 9-win season last year and not making the college football playoffs, do you trade that room you had last year and move them to this year and just have whatever you had last year and you take a 7-8-win season with you bringing in this new quarterback and Bo Prabula from Penn State there? Because it's not a great time, like I mentioned. Who was I talking about just a minute ago, Bear? Not a great time to be breaking in a new quarterback. Oh, Georgia. I was talking about Georgia randomly enough. Not a great time to be breaking in a new quarterback with a bunch of new receivers as well. And again, like Marquise Johnson and Joshua Manning have been around. You mentioned Kevin Coleman was on the team last year. Not a lot of real proven production. Just interesting to talk about, again, a big hypothetical, but I don't know. I mean, it's easy just to say there's going to be drop-off. I think naturally there's going to be –
there's going to be drop-off.
Anybody thinks it's going to be a better room out there. How big of a drop-off, and it can't be too big if they want to stay in that 9-win range, especially when you're factoring in what you lost at the quarterback spot.
No, there will be a significant drop-off. The question is that what are you going to actually see be that drop-off? Is it at wide receiver or is that quarterback? Because I also think that we have to put into consideration, you already said, well, what if we had the same wide receivers that we brought in this year for Bo Prabula, but you would take a 6-win season? Are you still getting that same offensive line? Are you still getting that same running back room? Are we bringing in the entire personnel and just putting Brady Cook in the offense? Because we could just do that if we wanted to. But I do think that when we talk about Kevin Coleman, really solid playmaker. I think that when you talk about the upside of a lot of these young cats who have been in Kirby Moore's system for several years, now it's time to kind of lay it down on the line. Are we actually going to take that next step forward? Or are we going to cannibalize and capitalize on ourselves?
Yeah. I was really just flipping the wide receiver rooms there for the most part. I wasn't even thinking about the I would say you can keep Brady Cook, you can keep the whole offense. Just literally swap out the wide receiver rooms for this year. I was talking about having more experience for a new quarterback in there for this upcoming year.
Yeah, I guess I agree with you. Another team that's going to have a lot of experience kind of out the window that you have to wonder about, Texas. Yeah, you bring in Arch Manning, but you are losing Matthew Golden. You are losing Isaiah Bond. You are losing Silas Bolden. You are losing also your star tight end and Gunnar Helm. You do have Ryan Wingo back, and I think that's a big win. Ryan Wingo, I think, is going to have that breakout year that we thought Jonte Cook was going to have, but never really transpired. I think you're also going to see DeAndre Moore have a big-time season. I really like what DeAndre Moore was able to be as that wide receiver for. You remember in the Cotton Bowl, in the Peach Bowl matchup, 2 big-time plays, including the touchdown reception to open up the game. There's a lot to like about his role playing inside the slot. I think he's very comfortable in the system. They also have some young freshmen that you're hopefully are going to see break on out. Khalil Lockett's there. Jamie French is there. You also have Parker Livingstone there. Ryan Niblett, what's he going to be this year? That's going to be a pretty big-time thing. Parker Livingstone, what's he going to be? Is this a team that needs to go out and bring in a transfer portal wide receiver?
Yeah, I think they need to go bring one bear. Who you go get in the spring? I don't know. It's going to be some big time difference maker. I really don't know that. But yeah, I mean, this is a ton of production loss. Your guy, Matthew Golden, we talk about Bond, Silas Bolden. Yeah, Ryan, it's the Ryan Wingo show right now. And again, I trust Sark in them. They'll have some guys ready. You're right, DeAndre Moore. But guys, see it, Texas is proof. Like, you see all this production, Missouri, when Ole Miss lost. It's like this league in general in Texas is like the definition of it. Like, these good offenses over the last few years, they lost a ton when I was looking at it today when we were prepping for this show. I was like, dude, this league has a lot to prove from a wide receiver standpoint. We lost a lot of kind of the faces of our league at the wide receiver. I mean, obviously outside like Cam Coleman, and Ryan Williams, we know those young cats' names, but man, a lot of teams like Ole Miss and Texas lost all their weapons. And you mentioned a good one too, Bear. I mean, he's not a receiver, but he was a receiving threat for him, and Gunnar Helm will be tough to replace.
I think what's going to be interesting is what path they go. Because if I do believe that Texas, knowing the resources that they have and knowing what they can spend, they will bring in somebody. Now, the question is, do they feel too stagnant about their wide receiver room that they go over splurge? Like, again, a Perry Thompson, let's say he enters the transfer portal. Do maybe you go after him just to say, hey, we're bringing in another dude that we just feel confident can take the necessary steps forward, and he's a foundational piece for us? Or do they go after a tight end? Because remember, they were in the running for Max Clare coming out of Purdue all the way up until the final whistle, and Ohio State came in with the best offer, and now he's going to go play in Columbus week 1, so he'll see Texas. He just won't be on Texas sidelines. I do think that they will address one of the two positions, though. And I think that there's a part of me that wants to see them address tight end a little bit more, simply because I think that Gunnar Helm would have been such a good overall security blanket for Arch Manning early on in the season. I think Matt Clare would have been that too. So the question is, can you get a tight end that maybe can be that role for you really early on?
Yeah, I can see that.
Tennessee's one to where I think that just the wide receivers are going to have to step on up simply because Nico is not, in my opinion, the entire problem. I also think that when you look currently at the running back room, it's solid, especially with what you got in Bishop and what you got in Star Thomas. But you don't have a Dylan Sampson to just lay on anymore. You don't have that difference maker, bell cow bruising running back that will take over games, kick ass, and be able to punch your way to a victory like you had a few years, like that you've had in the last few years. And so, from what I've gathered, this wide receiver room, they feel very confident in the direction that they're going in. Braylon Staley is one that I think a lot of people this time next offseason are going to be talking about as maybe that really solid complementary piece. Mike Matthews needs to have a good spring. I wonder what we're also going to see from Chris Brazzell, because I've seen some clips of him. He looks really confident right now. The way that he has been practicing, there's been a lot of upside. I think that last season when they came on him from Tulane, people thought that he was going to be that difference maker week 1, and he wasn't. But that doesn't mean that he doesn't have a skill set coming on him from the G5 level. One of them is going to have to step on up. And then you also bring in Amari Jefferson, another 4-star wide receiver that played at the University of Alabama, really never got on the field. Maybe just with Nico Iamaleava, he can find his rhythm.
Yeah, I'm not high on this room, Bear. I'll be honest with you. They're going to have a Mike Matthews or Braylon Staley step up, one of these second-year guys. Chris Brazzell, if it wasn't last year, I mean, again, if you couldn't play on last year's team, they lost a lot. I mean, hell, Squirrel White's in Tallahassee now.
Yeah.
Not a big fan of this wide receiver room right now. And again, they need somebody to go help Nico out. Maybe I'm proven wrong there, but I do. If you told me it wasn't Staley or it wasn't Mike Matthews, I think this room's in real big trouble.
They also have
those two dudes didn't take that next step, and they may. I mean, they're both second-year players, but yeah, I don't know. This room's a little. I'm going to have to see it. They have not been able to replace those two dudes, Jalen Hyatt, since then. They haven't really had anybody who's remotely close to that in the last 2 years.
Have you heard the rumor about that they may have a design package in line for Boo Carter?
He's a two-way player. It wouldn't shock me if they played him some. They need something on offense.
There is a rumor that there is going to be several design plays for Boo Carter to make an impact on offense this year, which – to me, that says a lot more about where the wide receiver room is than what I think Boo Carter is as a player. Because, you could say that when you're talking about the talent that you watch out in the Big 12 with Travis Hunter, it's one thing. But then you got to talk about, okay, what are we doing here? Because we are supposed to be Tennessee with how many talented wide receivers that we got. And I still think that you can have it. I mean, I think that Mike Matthews can break out. I think that Braylon Staley can have a good season. I think Chris Brazzell can be a very solid complementary piece. But if they're not, then what does that say about the current status of the wide receiver room in general? That to me is just a big time question mark.
No, I'm with you, man. I mean, Tennessee, I mean, me and you agree, their schedule,
Their schedule should make them a college football
just
playoff
a
team.
lot of question marks on this team this year. And I have question marks really at the wide receiver spots. Alex Golish, where are you?
Texas A&M is going to have, I think, a decent wide receiver room. Casey Concepcion, I spoke to my buddy yesterday. He has been such a good find for them. They love it. Everything that he provides for this offense. They believe that he is going to be that breakout player that we all envisioned after his dominant freshman season at NC State. They think that Marcel Reed and him are going to be speaking the same wavelength. Like they are going to be attached at the hip and taking that next step forward. Mario Craver, a lot of things were positively said by Mike Elko about what he provides, that most people had trouble guarding him in that game against Mississippi State last season. They also have Terry Bussey coming on back in. They have some young up-and-coming players like Jerome Miles. They have Jonah Wilson at wide receiver, who may end up being a lot like Matthew Golden, kind of flying under the radar after transferring in from the University of Houston and being that by the end of the season, most confident X factor that constantly is moving the sticks. But Casey Concepcion is the one that you got to focus in on. I think that if you ask anybody in the state of Texas who is the most dangerous playmaker with a ball in his hands, 95% would say Casey Concepcion, simply based off of what they watched during his freshman season.
Yeah, I agree. He's the key. You're right. He's the key to how good this room. They need him to be good. Again, Terry Bussey, Mario Craver, if the kid can stay out of trouble. I mean, that was always the concern at Mississippi State. Texas A&M's taking a waiver. I'm sure if I know about it, I'm sure they did their homework and know.
Oh, they did.
I mean, to bear, you'd be surprised how many don't, though. That's why I say that. But no, I mean, overall, I mean, again, these offenses, these explosive plays, it's going to be the relationship with Marcel Reed and the quarterback. I'm sitting here. You're a little higher on this room again than me. I'm going to wait and see with them because I've never seen it. I want to see it before I start buying some stock in this.
I'm not high on this wide receiver room. I'm high on a wide receiver. I believe that when you look at Casey Concepcion, he could be a 1,000-yard playmaker. He could be a guy that takes over games. I agree with you. I am in the wait-and-see mode when it comes to Mario Craver. I'm in the wait-and-see mode when it comes to Terry Bussey. I'm honestly in the wait-and-see mode when it comes to Marcel Reed. Like if anything, I'm still waiting to see if Marcel Reed can work on those minor little details that will eventually be such a major impact on the outlook of what is going to be Texas A&M football. Like, to me, that's such an underlying thing right now, is that you may feel really good about the wide receiver room, but do you feel good about the guy getting the ball to his receivers?
Yeah, you're right.
Oklahoma is going to be finally healthy at wide receiver, which I think is a kind of big time deal because if they weren't at all last season. And a name that honestly, I'm very shocked to see how much of an impact he has made this early on. Giovanni Gibson from Arkansas Pine Bluff. I mean, Dave, the way that you see the message boards talk about this kid, they think that he is going to be the second coming of Jesus Christ himself down in Norman. And I mean, I get it. You're missing that wide receiver number one. You're missing that complimentary piece. But like, he just so far in the social media clips is John Mateer's go-to guy. Like they it's just like, hey, you know what, John Mateer, go ahead and find your dude. We got you. If that's what I'm getting on Saturdays, that's something to be excited about. Now, I'm not saying the wide receiver room is good. I'm saying Giovanni Gibson and a healthy Deion Burks, it gives you a 1-2 punch. Now, what do you have about the depth pieces? And if somebody gets injured, yeah, but the way that they talk about him is positive.
I also say about Gibson that the level of play will be a tremendous gap. It won't even be like a Conference USA. I mean, we're going to Arkansas Pine Bluff here. That'll be a massive. I hope for Oklahoma State, it gets better. I'm kind of looking, though, like Deion Burks needs to play really well. Like that kid, him and Jaden Gibson, one of those two guys is going to have to step up and be that wide receiver one. And I think Isaiah Satania fits into that 2 or 3 role. If that's how it could honestly design up, if you could get Giovanni, one of the Gibson guys to step up, Deion Burks and Isaiah Satania to be the 2 to 3 guy, I think Emmett Jones, the wide receiver coach at Oklahoma, will have a solid room. I don't think Satania is an overall number 1, but I think he settles in nicely to a number 2 or 3 spot, which I think that's kind of what they're asking him to do. So I think I actually like the take there in that role.
What about Keontae Lewis coming on in? I mean, he's been like at 4 different schools. He's been like at Southern Illinois, Wisconsin, UCLA. Anything with him?
I haven't heard much about him, honestly.
What about Elijah Thomas, the 4-star? Well, like imagine if the 4-star, the new kid that comes on in, and he's a perfect.
No, you're right. I mean, we're not talking about any of these and me and you both like. There's freshmen that step up in this league every year at the wide receiver spot. Again, the further away you are from the football and the line of scrimmage, the quicker you can get on the field. We see it every year. Right? There's freshmen who step up, and when we're going through all these teams, that's got to factor in too. It's what I mean. Bear, we're sitting in the spring, dudes. As you know, it's like you're so biased naturally. We all are to what you've kind of seen last year in a little bit that you forget about these freshmen because of the portal. But I mean, since the beginning of time, wide receivers have stepped up as freshmen in the college level.
Vanderbilt is replacing a lot on the offensive line. Not that much at wide receiver. Junior Sherrill is back for another year. They also landed Trent Hudson from the transfer portal. Joseph McVay is going to, I think, have an opportunity to kind of break on out and be that replacement for Quincy Skinner. They also landed Chance Fitzgerald from the transfer portal. They have Richie Hoskins in the slot, and they also have Tristan Brown. I'm not going to lie. I don't know how to feel about this wide receiver room really outside of Junior Sherrill, which is why I'm saying if there's an opportunity for somewhat Vanderbilt to spend just a little bit of money in the portal this offseason, kind of do it. Like after spring, if you feel like that you need one more dude to get Diego Pavia up to the level of what you believe is going to make him a top 5, top 6 passer in the SEC, go pay it. Like honestly, go pay it and call it a day.
Hey, take that pressure, like you're saying, Bear, off Eli Stowers, because I mean he's going to be the primary.
That's it. Guy. Like honestly, it's Junior Sherrill, and
that's it.
You're
right.
Whoever's to be the next guy.
Hopefully somebody else. I'm with you. I mean, you're expecting someone to step up for them, but those are the two guys. I mean, you feel okay. I mean, I think they can develop a third guy. I think they can develop it. And Bear, maybe they're that team in the spring that goes and gets somebody under the radar that nobody's willing to pay that late because they've already overspent a little bit. Maybe he sneaks into Vanderbilt's 85 there and comes their 3. I mean, that wouldn't shock me. I'm with you. Not totally down, but it's Junior Sherrill and it's our guy Eli Stowers, and that's it.
I want one dude just to come in for Vanderbilt. Like just one. I don't care if it is like a kid from Central Michigan who's just having a phenomenal spring, or if it's a dude that's like a 4th-stringer at Auburn. Like, I don't care. Just somebody that I feel like I have to go back and watch his tape from high school, watch his tape from last season, watch some of his spring tape and go, I completely understand why Vanderbilt is willing to spend this type of money. They are fully invested with Diego Pavia coming back, that they are going to be one of those dark horses that maybe goes anywhere between, what are we talking about? 7-5, 8-4, maybe even 9-3. I just want to see them get one guy.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's what they need to go lock in on, find that third receiver.
One team that does need to get one guy, and honestly, our last team of the night, I saved this for a reason, South Carolina. South Carolina, they really like what Nick Harbor's going to provide this year. And I'm not saying that you have to go all in and throw all the eggs in the basket on Nick Harbor being this 1,000-yard playmaker and the next Alshon Jeffrey or the next Xavier Legette, but he's not running track. And I will say, Dave, when he was a freshman as an early enrollee, he didn't get to be a part of spring. And then last year, he was a part of track. So he is still kind of getting caught up to speed with how spring practice works. I think that's a win for South Carolina, is not having him run track. And he could do it because guess what? He would be able to qualify for an Olympic trial and nobody would be shocked. But if he's not running, that's a good thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. This is a big year for him. Again, you have the full year of football. You got a true wide receiver 1 slot you can just slide right into. Because, again, I don't think Jared Brown or Mazio Bennett are number 1 guys. They can be solid role guys, 2 and 3 guys. I think they do need that one big-time X guy that we're all looking forward to. That, I mean, it has Nick Harbor written all over it. Maybe Brandravius Jacobs is a 2 right behind him at the X spot. But you're right, it's Nick Harbor. I mean, you think of the South Carolina wide receiver room, and he immediately comes to mind. It's like, man, you're going to be a big difference. And if South Carolina can improve this passing game off just outside of just improvisation of Lenore Sellers, we need some like route runners. Because again, you go back and watch a lot of Mazio Bennett's catches. A lot of them were just he was kind of wide open off improvisation. So again, not his fault. He's doing what he's supposed to be doing. He'll be a sophomore next year. But I think Nick Harbor, like you said, Bear, really tone setter for how good the ceiling of this South Carolina offense is in the first year under Mike Shula.
I have heard positive things about Malik Clark, the freshman. And they have 5 freshmen that are going to be having, I think, at least maybe not bigger roles, but at least roles in this offense. And part of the reason why, if you talk to anybody in South Carolina right now, they're not interested in going in the portal, it has nothing to do with they're so high on Nick Harbor and Mazeo Bennett and Jared Brown taking a step forward. It has everything to do with, hey, if we lose Mazeo Bennett for a game, we feel really good about Lex Cyrus taking a step forward, or Jaden Sellers having a bigger role, or Donovan Murph having a bigger role. We can survive a game without a Nick Harbor. We can survive a game without a Jared Brown. And if one of them does break through and you get back Lenora Sellers for 2026, because remember, he is draft eligible because he has the redshirt freshman campaign. If you add that to it, this is an opportunity for South Carolina to strike while the iron's hot. Like, I know so many people have said, you included, me included, South Carolina is not going to be a team that every single year is competing for the college football playoff. They aren't. But I do think that if you have the quarterback, you built that rapport with the young wide receiver room, whoever it is, Harbor's back for another year, Bennett's back for another year, you're able to go out into the portal and land yourself another running back. You have Michael Smith take that next step forward, a stable offensive line, and those younger players on the defense that are going to step on up for all the veterans that left in the offseason. That window may not be longer than just 2026, but it's not a 5-year gap between what you saw in 2024 and 2029. Like, it's not going to be that for South Carolina.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you on that.
Like the video, hit the ring notification, and of course, subscribe. Before we get on out of here, the hypothetical of the day, and this is for our basketball aficionado. And I'm not going to answer this one because I don't know enough about it, but I want Dave's hypothetical. Buzz Williams is gone. He is now headed off to College Park, Maryland. Who are the top 3 names that Texas A&M should be targeting to replace him down in College Station?
Top 3?
Top 3.
I'm giving my guy Chris Beard a call.
So you're going to go, okay, so he's going back to Lone Star State.
Yeah, which would be funny is if he actually did do that. I'd be interested in giving him – he just took a job at South Florida, but from Arkansas State. Brian Hodgkin used to be an assistant in Alabama under Nate Oates. A lot of people think he may be the next guy when Oates goes to the NBA. He had a good year at Arkansas State this year. And outside of that, a third one. Let's think, Bear. God, does Greg McDermott want to make the move?
That was my first thought too. If he
does he finally make the move to a bigger program with more resources? That's if I was Trev Alberts, I would call. So those 3, Chris Beard, see if he wants to leave Ole Miss. I don't know if it's as easy as I don't know if he's going to leave for Texas A&M in basketball, but I think he would definitely leave for North Carolina when they come open next year when Hubert Davis gets fired. But I'd go Chris Beard, Brian Hodgkin, a mid-major coach. I think you could do well with, and then I'd say I think you go give a call to our guy over in Omaha. Hey, Creighton, Greg McDermott.
I got one for you. Just humor me with this one, because I'm not sure that he would even take the job. But would you call Grant McCasland?
Yeah, it's another good one too. See if he'd be willing to leave Texas Tech. Yeah, you're right. I agree with you. That's a good one.
He's only been there, 2 years now?
Yeah.
But he's been to a Sweet 16.
Like accountant. He's
been to a Sweet 16. And he's been to an Elite 8. And for most of that second half, if you were a Florida fan, you were sitting on pins and needles because there was just something about Texas Tech's ability to pull away. And there was the inconsistency and there was the total implosion with 5 minutes left. But Grant McCasland is a guy that I think you're going to get the right resources because of what he's been able to establish on court consistency. What he did when he was at UNT to take them into the tournament, what he has done really being that name that I think that they probably should have hired right after Beard left. But again, I understood the reasoning why. If I get that, I feel like that I'm going to have some continuity. And here's the other thing. I know it's different than college football, but just being from the state of Texas and having the resources throughout the state of Texas, you know what you're looking for. And you're going to get that SEC money and you're going to get that SEC logo attached to it. And you're also going to get a program that has finished inside the top, what has it been? Top 5 seeds the last 2 years? Was A&M a 7 seed last year? Yeah. So a top 5 seed the last 2 years in basketball. You're getting that at your disposal, and you're getting to stay in the state. I think that Grant McCasland would be my first phone call personally. But I do agree with you. McDermott's an interesting one because if he turned down Texas, what makes him saying that he's not going to turn down Texas A&M?
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think that would actually be a really good idea. That would be a good hire there, Bear. I think A&M fans would have to be fired up about that.
Like the video, hit the ring notification. Make sure you hit subscribe because we do this show twice a week. We will be back to our normal schedule programming this Thursday with the mailbag episode. So be on the lookout tonight by Dave Shumate, by myself, by SEC Unfiltered for the prompt for you to get your questions in. Taking about 12 to 13 questions. That way you're able to keep up to date with everything that we're doing here over on SEC Unfiltered and things you want to know about the SEC. But for Dave Shumate, I am Cole Thompson. Make sure that you hit subscribe, hit the ring notification. That way you don't miss a single episode of the Overtime Drive or whatever we're doing here on the channel. And we will catch you on Thursday for the mailbag episode. For Dave Shumate, I am Cole Thompson. Have a good night. God bless.